Hello and welcome to the Coding Loft. My name is Samuel and today we will work on a little fun project that will save us a lot of time when creating new projects. And what I mean by that is that there's a problem. Every time we need to start a new project, we always go through the same steps. We need to create a folder of our new project, then we add in an index file, then we add in a script file and a style file. And in the index file we need to link the style sheet, the script, and ideally we also have a default CSS reset, and that just takes some time. So what we will do instead is we will create a small template and a script. So in any folder that we are, right now I'm in a folder called test in my home directory, I type make web project and I give it a name, my project, and boom. Now if I look inside the folder, I have a new folder called my project, and if I go in there, and I look at the files, I have all of these 3 files, and if I open them up, then you can see that they're already linked. So the style sheet is linked, the script is linked, and I also have the CSS reset in there. So that's what we will be doing today. There's a small bash script that we write. You can also just copy it from the Github repo, but you can also just type along as you like. So let's get started. So let's get started by creating a template folder. Right now I'm in my home directory. So if I look at the files, you can see it's just my regular home directory. And in here I will create a new folder called templates. Make directory templates. And now you can see the folder in here, templates. And now we go inside of there. And here you can list any type of templates. Maybe you want to have templates for other projects as well. But right now we will have a web development project, so we'll call it make directory web dev. And then we go in there. And as you can see, it's empty right now. What do we need in our web development project? There's always an index file, a script file, and a style file. Now we've created those, and now we will open up the project in VS Code. Let me drag it over here. And you can see I have an empty index file, empty script, empty styles file. So first of all, we will create a basic layout. In VS Code, you can just type the exclamation mark, and then you get this basic layout with doc.type HTML and the head and the body. In here, we want to link our style sheet. So we go link rel style sheet, that's already selected, and in here we want to make a reference to style.css. So just type style.css. And down here we want to link our script tag. Source is script.js. And lastly, we want to make a small CSS reset. So in here, that basically means that browsers always have a different way of showing their default styles. And with a CSS reset, you set everything back to 0, basically. And that means that from there, the behavior will be the same in all of the browsers. And I found this one on digitalocean.com. They actually have a lot of good tutorials, and this is really nice. So just copy the CSS reset. You can also find another one. Make a comment, CSS reset, and then you can copy it just below. Okay, let's save it. And maybe last one, you can create a new index file and h1 that says my template. Now that was the easy part, that was the first part. What we want to do now is to create a small script. So every time we run our script, it will generate this folder with all of the 3 files inside. So what we need to do is we need to create a shell script inside of our bin directory, and we make it executable and we tell it what to do. And that's what we will do right now. So we go to our root directory, so go to cd root, and in here you have our the user folder, and inside of there's a local and a bin folder. And in here is where you should put your scripts. Right, so if I look right now, I already have 2 scripts in here, make wp.sh, and myscript.sh. So this one is the one that we want to build today. So now we'll just remove the file. So sudo rm make.sh. So basically it says with root user privilege, I can now remove that file. I have to type in my password. And now it's gone. So the first thing that we will do is we will create that file. So sudo touch make webproject.sh. You can call it anything that you like. I just find it a very clear and short name. And don't forget to use sudo because we are in a root directory and we will need root privileges to add files here. Now here's the file. If I look at the privileges, you can see that I can only read it with every user group and write it as a root user, but nobody can execute it. And we need to change that first before we start working on it. So the way that we do this is we say sudo, don't forget that, change mod 755, which means read, write, execute for the root user and read and execute for the other two groups. Make wp.sh, and let's check it again. Now we list all of the files again, and now you can see that for every group I can now also execute them. So the X here means that we can execute the file. Now here you can use any editor you want, such as Nano or Vim to open the file, but I will just stick to VS Code because it's my go-to editor.sh. And in here there are a couple of things that we want to do. First we want to set the shebang. So that basically tells our program what language it needs to interpret the script. So in this case our shebang always starts with a hash and an exclamation mark, and then afterwards the path to the executable file that you want. So if we want bash, we can type in our queuer which bash, and it will give us the path to our bash file. So in this case /user/bin/bash. And then we want to do three things. We want to create our variables. We want to check if the template file or the template folder exists. And then we want to do something with the arguments that we provide. Directory. What do I mean by arguments? So what we want to do is we want to say make web project, and then afterwards we want to type in some name such as my project. And our script can take several arguments, and we want to just make sure that it just takes one, and the one that we give it is the name of the directory that we create. So first we will create our variables. So it's basically just the path to the current working directory, because we want to be able to run that script in any directory where we are, and in there we want to add in our new project folder. Then we need the path to our template directory, because that's where the script shall look for the folder with which we created earlier, and it needs to copy it to our current directory. Now in order to make the script work, let's first check if the directory exists. So we say if, and then if the directory exists, and by which directory are we looking for? The template directory, because if it doesn't exist, then we cannot copy it later, right? If it exists, then something has to happen. We just say echo. Let's just put this on top so it's a bit easier to read in the output, and then when we say our template directory exists. And then again we can just put some separators. And if that's not the case, if our directory does not exist, then we want to do something, right? We don't need the brackets, sorry. Because if it doesn't exist, then we want to create the directory first. So again, we make a small separator, and then we say template dir does not exist, creating directory. And then we make the directory and we say create the directory which we call template directory. So create that path, which is the folder template and the folder webdev. And we need this P here, because if we don't have the folder template yet and we don't have the P, then we cannot create that folder. So it will first then create the template folder and then the webdev1 folder. Once that's done, we want to go inside of there. So cd inside of our template dir and touch index.html, style.css, and script.js. Of course, these would be still empty because we haven't added our CSS reset, for instance, but at least we would have those 3 files. And then again, we make echo, and we just put some separator here. Now that's the first part of the script. The second part is that we check the arguments provided. And how can we check the arguments? With the bash script, if you have the $ and you say 1, that's the first argument that we pass in. So for instance, make working project name, then 1 would be name. If we have 2 arguments, let's say test, then the second argument would be test, and so on. And we have one variable which is called $hash, which refers to all of these. So name, test, and anything else that we would put in here. Now what we want to do is we want to check the number of arguments provided. And we want to give different output depending on how many arguments we have provided. So if we didn't put any arguments, so the number of arguments, oops, this one, my typo, sorry. If the number of arguments equals 0. If that's the case, what should happen? Well, we want to tell the person that we don't have any argument yet. And the way that we do this is we say the name of the script by $0, and then we say, please provide an argument. In this case, our directory name. And then we echo, again, a small separator. And then we exit the program, because if no argument is provided, we don't want to continue with the rest of the program. Else if the number of arguments, oops, is greater than 1, then also something should happen. Then we will say, again, a small separator to make it look nicer. Then we will say, too many arguments. Just enter one directory name. And then again, a small separator. And then we will quit the program again. Else if, and now comes the condition that we actually want, and that's that the number of arguments is exactly 1, meaning we just provided one directory name. Then what should happen? Echo, first we make a small separator again, and then we say current directory is our variable current dir, just to confirm where we are. And then we say copying template folder. And then we want to run the command that we need to copy the folder. So how do we do that? We copy recursively, meaning that we copy folders as well. And we copy the template folder, template dir, into our current directory. And we want to give it a name inside our current directory, which is the argument that we provided, so $1. Then we say folder copied to, of course you can write anything else here, but I just like the extra output. And then maybe echo name of the project, okay, and then happy coding. and then again a small separator. Exit the file, and I see I forgot one thing which I need down here and also up there, is that an if statement in the bash script at the end always ends with fi. Otherwise it will not read the script correctly. And also one thing that's very important is if you have a bash script, you always need a space between the argument here and the bracket. Otherwise it will throw an error later. So it looks like this should run. Let's save the file, and we will need to save it as sudo, so as root privilege user. Let's check again if the file exists. Yep, we have make web project.sh. And now let's see if it works. So we go into our home directory, and now we should be able to run make web project.sh, and we give it a new name, my fancy project. And it says the directory does not exist. Oh yeah, of course. I made a small mistake. We called it here templates, and in my script I said template. So let's change that right here. And then it also has another error. Make directory help leave it at 2. Okay, that's fine. So it didn't find the directory, so it couldn't exit the project correctly. So made a mistake right here. Let's save it again. Clear again the terminal. Oh yeah, and I saw that I didn't call it webdev1, but just webdev. So let's save it again. So as you can see, you just need to make sure that the names are correct. So now it said, yeah, the template webdev exists, and inside of our current directory, home Samuel, it will copy the template folder copied, name of the project doesn't show yet. So there's some mistake. We will look into that in a second. Ah yeah, you can see it. I didn't actually put the variable down here. We'll just fix that part again. And now ls, I see my fancy project, so I go into my fancy project, and in here I have 3 files, index, script, and style. If I open them up, what will happen? We have the files that we defined earlier, so we already have the style sheet here, we have the script, and we have our CSS reset as well. So now we can just run this small command, and we save quite some time in the long run. Now maybe you don't always want to type make webproject.sh, but you want to skip that .sh part and you just want to type make wp. So the way that we can do it is that in our home directory there's a file called bashrc. It's a hidden file, so it has dot before it, .bashrc. This one right here. And in here we can define aliases. So alias basically means a shorthand for another command. Now what we can do is we say nano.bashrc in our home directory, and then we open it. And down here we can define our own custom aliases. As you can see, I already created 2. Next to this we will now just write alias make wp equals, and then in here we say make wp.sh. Save by clicking Ctrl X. Yes. And then clear the terminal. So now it should work that we just say make web project, my new name, and it didn't work yet. So let's see. Ah, yeah, of course, we need to also save our file. So we do that by saying source.bashrc. And now it should work. So we run the command again. Yes, now it works. And it says the template exists, the folder, and it created a new project. So if I type ls, we can see my new name down here. So my new name, we go in there. And then again, we have the index file, the script file, and the style file. If you did enjoy this video, if you did find it helpful, then please leave a like, leave us a short comment as well, and hope to see you in the next video. Have a great day.